morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a TMM special. Looking forward to this one, ladies and gents, because it's all happening at the centre-back position right now, isn't it? Most importantly, the skipper signed a 2-year extension. We've got the main man locked in. It now comes down to who's going to be the supporting cast for the coming seasons. Ibrahima Konaté has been his partner 99% of this campaign, but it's certainly not 99% certainty he's going to sign that contract renewal. And with 12 months left to go, there's questions there. The name linked, everyone is saying Dean Huijsen. We've been saying Dean Huijsen. We've got to look at him and really dig on this, compare and contrast the two. And then there's even question marks, isn't there, around the likes of Kwanzaa, Gomez. Where does their future lie? There is so much to dig into almost in this centre-back minefield. And here as ever, to look at it, Barts. And before I come to you fully, Barts, and set full context, we've got some brilliant centre-halves. Huijsen could be a brilliant centre-half. There is a lot to like. If we get it right this summer, the collection of centre-backs can be brilliant, couldn't it?
100%. Yeah. We have some great centre-halves. Unfortunately, one of them is very injury-prone. And Konaté's had his best season in terms of injuries, but he still missed a month. So, more than that. So, but yeah, if we get it right, we could end up with a set of centre-halves we haven't had for a long, long time. It's probably since we had Matip, Konate, and Van Dijk and Gomez less injury-prone. So, yeah, that's probably the last time we had 4 that were amazing. So it could be really good. It could be good going forward. It's just balancing up, it's not our money, but it's just getting that right. And then what you're bringing in, and if you're losing one, then you've got to bring someone else in. So, yeah, but definitely we could end up with some very good centre-halves at the club.
And as Bart says, we could also end up with a slightly worse starting position than we were at this season. So we'll get into it straight away. Well, the runners and riders, how we're going to analyse it. So first of all, Bart, I want to get into this. Ibrahima Konaté, let's just be clear. Him and Van Dijk have been the centre-back pairing. Obviously, Van Dijk's one, but a brilliant number 2. Probably number 2 on his day centre-back in the league. I don't think any Liverpool fan doubts that. Injuries a bit of concern, but this season, as you're right to say, that the best, so we'll get into his metrics. We've also got to analyse it in the sense that Ibu will have 12 months left to run in the summer, and these contract negotiations are dragging on. Let's be clear, people. Yeah. If he doesn't renew soon, they will sell him this summer. They will not allow this one to go down on a free. I suppose in terms of that context and that analysis, Bart, how good has Konate been this season, which then leads to the other end of the scale? How big could be the loss if it is a sale?
I mean, if I just compare him to Van Dijk, right? We showed this other day. Those who looked at the BBD special would have seen a little glimpses of it here. But Van Dijk and Konate together have got an 81% win rate, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. They should have conceded 39 goals, which is just over the way we have done, but that just shows you the mark of it. And we should have scored over 90 goals as a team. So again, it's slightly better than we have been doing. So there is no doubt that these two, if you look at the comparisons of partners that Van Dijk's had, they have the best win percentage as a pair. They have the best defensive record as a pair, and they also have the best attacking metrics as a pair. All right, so it's not even close. The highest score for Van Dijk and Gomez is 75 goals this season, and the highest score for Kwanzaa is like 55, 56. So, and the limited game, so it's night and day, right? These two are the established centre-half pairings. Yeah. Just looking at his metrics here in comparison with the rest, we've got Konaté's here. So he has a threat conversion of 41, which is actually quite good in comparison. It's better than Van Dijk at the moment of the season. Shows he's developed that part of his game. It's not an asset, should we say, but it's certainly getting there. Pass success 90, up there with Van Dijk at 92. So that's something you definitely want to be seeing. If we look at where we are for some top level things in terms of duels, 46, which is overall ground or not. He's at a season average of 76% from my database on aerials, which is the best of our centre halves, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. Pass success again 90 odd, and he's also got some fairly. Well, he's in set pieces. He's at 1.6 xg, so he should do better from those. In terms of his connections, the thing I like about Konate more than any other pairing, so obviously Van Dijk passes to literally everybody, right? Yeah. But Konate also isn't that far behind. He's got the 6 in front of him, Mac. He's got to keep this fine, fair enough. He's got his right back. He's got the 8 though in Dom. He's got Mo. He's got Grab. He's got Trent. So there's still, yes, it's right side dominant. He hasn't got the range of Van Dijk to switch it, but he's still able to find every player on the right side, which is, that's quite, considering people question Konate on ball ability, that's quite good to see. Okay. The rest of it is all kind of, we've done before, we won't go too much in depth for that, but he does help produce some threat from his side. It might not be amazing, but it's a decent level for Konate. All right, he's a very good partner for Van Dijk. All right, so I think it's fair to say, just keep that in the mind. These are the dominant centre half pairing. When they play, we win. That's pretty much 82% of the points on offer. That's a huge slab to put down on a table when you're talking about contracts, right? Now, if you look at him as an individual player, we always want to start with, well, go on, and how many minutes has he played? Just trying to get that playing time. So this is his second highest amount of minutes played. Right? So yes, he has had a very good season in terms of minutes played, but still not near the 3,000. Like, do you know what I mean? He's not 3,000 odd, but he's only ever topped out 2-4, and then he broke, and then he got broken, and then we bought him. So, but this is the highest amount of minutes by far. He's played nearly 600-700 minutes, and he will end up playing a lot more this season than last season. So yeah, that's a considerable improvement in terms of managing low. You could argue whether his output's dropped off a little bit in the last few games, but in terms of getting him on the pitch, which is always a problem for periods under Klopp, we've certainly done more of that this year. In terms of him being on the pitch and what it does to our success, slightly negative, but that's, you're not expecting your centre halves to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of creation. Aerial drill weight, we bang on about this. 70%, as I said, 71, 76. So he's well above the thresholds we need for a centre half to be doing. Okay. So lots of things to like about Konate. If you look at his profile, so the thing you got to remember with a lot of, we always talk about the bottom box for defending, but a lot of these things are not necessarily what you would ask your centre half to do. You don't want your centre half tackling, because that shows he's made a mistake. A reactive action to a defensive action. Interception, yeah, fair enough. Some of ours are quite smart. Used to be smart, get in front, nick it. But the risk for that, you then leave space behind him and get it wrong. So, and as your last line, you don't do that much. Blocks and clearances, yeah, you'd expect if you're under pressure to be able to block, clear it, but we're not under pressure that much. So he's not going to do that many a game. Aerials, though, 79th percentile, that's where we need our centre halves doing, dominating that metric. And that's 79th, but then the 80th percentile is very good. On the ball, we know this is not his strength, okay? But having said that, we don't expect him to be in the penalty box. We don't expect him to receive progressive passes. And we don't expect him to take players on, all right? He does carry the ball better, and it's progressively 66 percentile for centre halves. He does make more passes this season than he did, but still only 65th. His pass completion is 81st percentile for a centre half. That's really good, okay? What does he do in the attacking box? I personally don't think he scores enough. 68th percentile, right? But in terms of shots, he's a 50 percentile, so he doesn't get in a position to maybe take those as much as you want. But shot creating actions for others than him, he's a 65th percentile. So Konate is he's an elite centre half, right? He's not Van Dijk, and I think we should be very clear about that. He isn't Van Dijk, but there's not many players that are like Van Dijk. And if you look at who he should be compared to, this if someone told you who to compare him to, that's the level of player that he should be compared to, right? So you've got Tosun at Chelsea, you've got Militao at Real Madrid, and a few others that you know, but there's not Van Dijk there, right? So he's a different profile to Van Dijk. That's why he plays really well with Van Dijk. So yeah, I think he is a superb centre half. He's certainly in our best pairing. But I think, as you mentioned on Transfer Show with Trev, I think last night or whenever that came out, if you can replace Konate, I'm not saying I want to, but but you could potentially go and buy, as we've done on this show. Actually, we've found centre halves that have got a similar passing range, have got an aerial win rate in the 70s, and are younger, right, and a little bit more bulletproof. So yeah, it's like, I don't want to lose any player that's playing that well and has that success towards us. But fundamentally, if he didn't sign a contract, then yeah, you could understand the club going, do you know what? Yeah, all right, we'll go and get A, B, C, D. So yeah, and I think that's probably where I'm at. He's a great player, loves the club, been part of some fantastic runs for us. It was a huge part in, the Champions League. Last time we got Champions League final, he was brilliant against Paris. So there's lots of things to like about Ibrahima Konaté, and he's just played the most minutes ever for the club. But he is not in the same category as Van Dijk.
Yeah. It's a funny one because Ibu's been brilliant, and we love him, not being derogatory about him at all. It's just, it's never unfair to compare him to Van Dijk. It's always in that sort of tier down, which pretty much everyone else is anyway. Your Salibas, Gabriels that people throw, but he's been so good. These contract talks, though, they have been dragging on for a while. Amounts have become more public, haven't they? He's looking for a 100% increase on what he is plus right now. So you do wonder about that. And that kind of steers into the next player we're going to talk about, Bart, because it's quite clear Liverpool like Dean Huijsen. Liverpool want Dean Huijsen. No doubts about that at all. Liverpool ideally want Konate to renew on terms that everyone can be happy with, and Huijsen to come in. Now, Dean Huijsen, if we just focus on him for a sec, has a £50 million release clause. All the top Premier League clubs want him, it seems. There's zero doubt about that. This is a kid that didn't have much football before he came to Bournemouth, but that's looking like one of the bargains of the summer, to be fair. Liverpool and others are seriously in for this kid at 50 million quid. Now, everyone will have watched him in the Premier League, but maybe you don't watch Bournemouth too often, and there can be a fashionable link at times as well. Huijsen at 50 million quid. We've ran him on TMM, and obviously it was a while ago, so we can see if there's been an uptick. There is a lot of green there, though, Bart. It's fair to say, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And some of this will be, as I said, Bournemouth play a different type of football to us, right? So they will defend slightly differently. So he will be asked to do more clearances, blocks, tackles. Right, tackles is still low, though. That's a good thing, right? He's still not making the mistake. He's not a reaction. He's intercepting, blocking, he's clearancing, and aerials. Aerials at 78 percentile, and aerials one for Ibu is 79. So there's not a lot of difference actually in the last period of time. Huijsen has improved, right? So defensively, a lot of green there, a lot of high percentile tariffs, right? Yeah. Between the boxes, this is where you'll start to see a bit of a difference, right? So he does actually receive progressive passes for a centre half at 78 percentile, and he does actually have a high percentile of chances, touches in the attacking penalty box for a centre half. Progressive carries, he carries the ball 93rd percentile. It'll be compared to Konate at 66, so he does do more with it in terms of carrying. But his passes are considerably less, and his average passing completion is less for a centre half. So that short game, that recycling ability is not as good as Konaté's. But equally, there might be an element that Bournemouth don't want to do that. Yeah. So there's some of that. But in the box, again, there's a lot of green there. Shot green action, 94 percentile. Konaté's was 65th. So there is a lot to like about this kid, and he's a kid, right? Very much things to say. It's just to say his pace, he's got a top speed of 33.6. We know from looking at the UEFA site, Konaté's is 34. So again, you might think that's not that much difference, but if you look at 100 meters, that would be Ibi would cover it in 10.5 seconds, and Huijsen would be a second slower. Okay, so Van Dijk would finish ahead of both of them in 10 seconds, roughly. So that just gives you a little bit, and a second in a 100-meter race is quite a long time, right? So just to give you some comparison about how you might do that. So he's not slow, but we would be losing a little bit in the recovery pace that Ibu has to go from that. So if you start then overlaying that, so let's look at what are the. So I said, who's he compared to? So he's compared to, funny enough, Cape at Leverkusen, Mancini at Roma. These are names that we've chatted about before. Yeah, Doherty, a little worry, but there are some players in there that we've all seen, and these are the ones that fit his profile the most, according to FPL.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we overlay that comparison with Konaté, okay, so these are the two profiles overlaid: blue Huijsen, red Konaté. It is fair to say that there are some elements here that Konate is better. So aerials one is going to be one. Okay, pass completion, passes attempted is higher with Konate. Yeah, but it's also, to be fair with the kid, and also Konate's got more assists. The kid is outperforming Konate in pretty much every other metric. So expected goals, shot creating actions, non-penalty goals, these are all attacking, but clearances, blocks, tackles might be down to style of play for the team. Progressive passes received, progressive carries, progressive passes made. Huijsen outperforms Konate. It's just that low-level recycling that he might not be asked to do. Konate is better at him, and aerially Konate is better, and Konate is quicker.
I mean, it's clear Liverpool want both, and we talk about it there on the screen, what's gained and lost. So is it fair to say in summary then, in terms of you contrasting the two, Konate clearly better in the air, an absolute behemoth, strength, no doubts about that at all. Quicker, which is a key attribute as well, and experience. We've got, people shouldn't underestimate this. This is Huijsen's first season in the Premier League. Konate has played a World Cup final, a Champions League final. He's set to be a title winner. So, for where he is right now, he is above Huijsen by a bit of distance. It's fair to say that. That shouldn't be undercooked, should it?
No, 100%. And just adding on some threat for you from Mark's stats, Konate's at 0.1. Huijsen, if I just find his name in here, is at 0.2. So a little bit better. But it is fair to say, for defensive, Konate gives you, I think, the archetypal thing that we typically have as Liverpool. We have two centre-halves that dominate the penalty box. And whether that's what Slot wants, we don't know, right? The other thing to note, and you pointed this out to me a while ago, actually, is, and credit to you for this, is one of our best centre-half pairings was actually Joe Gomez and Van Dijk, right? And Gomez has got a lower aerial ability than Van Dijk. Gomez, the problem is, Gomez has a very similar passing ability to Huijsen, or a bit more aggressive carrier, so same to Huijsen. Gomez is rapid at that time. So that's the only slight. If you look at a bigger and a smaller player, it can work. But the attribute that helped Gomez out a lot was he was rapid. He was able to clear out behind Van Dijk, and then he could carry the ball forward. So, I'm not saying it has to be too bigger two big beam-offs in the air, and Slot might not want that. And that's absolutely fine, because if you imagine Huijsen getting on the ball and switching it out to the left, right? He could do the opposite switch to Van Dijk. He could play, it could open up our team attacking-wise. It's just whether he thinks that the risk in terms of what you lose from not having a double area ability is worth it. And he might decide, yes, it is for some games, but I think a far better option would be to have all three play.
Yeah. And I suppose Huijsen's strengths, we can see all the green, we've talked through them there. Is one of the biggest ones. I mean, he's 19, so the potential's huge. That's part of the reason why everyone's in for this kid. And, on the ball. The ball plays a big part. And that progressive carries being in the 91st percentile, do you think part of it comes down to the fact that with Trent set to depart, we've seen Kwanzaa at right back and the stinkage we've had in our first phase build-up, as they call it. If Huijsen was in there, this is a guy that can just pass it and drive through as well, it's fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the pass would have to be a long one, I think, because a short game I would still have questions over. Again, not watched ball member every single week, but from the kind of looking at it, I think it looks like he's been asked to play long. But yeah, definitely that. If you look at the way we typically set up, Van Dijk is normally tasked with passing the football. Yeah. And the other centre half is normally tasked with carrying and punching it into the front, which Huijsen definitely could do. It's just whether he wants to take the thing that drop off from Eredy, although actually when you look at it on here, they're very similar. But it's just the raw numbers tell you that there's quite a big gap.
It does feel like, they want all three for obvious reasons as well. The worry is if Konate does get sold, Huijsen's a talent, but the drop for right now is a bit worrying based on what we're seeing and him starting next season. All three is ideal.